Before we embark on this journey, I must caution you that the tale ahead delves into mature themes. It explores the trials of new motherhood, the dynamics of family relationships, and the complexities of infidelity. If these subjects unsettle you, it may be wise to pause your viewing at this moment. Allow me to introduce myself. I go by the name Bray Sheffer, and I have journeyed through 42 years of life's adventures. Should you glance at my life today, you may deem it unconventional. Yet I have come to embrace it for all that it represents. Had you whispered to me a decade ago that my life would take such unexpected turns, I would have surely chuckled and brushed it off as a mere jest. I could never have imagined such a thing from you. Here I find myself, perched at my kitchen table on a tranquil morning, my mind wandering as I gaze at a half-empty cup of coffee. As I weave through the tapestry of the last decade, I find myself sifting through the threads of events, seeking the deeper significance in each moment. Yet, the entirety remains elusive, a puzzle that resists my understanding. For the past 8 years, it has been a journey shared between my son, Maximus, and me. Since the divorce, we've been journeying through life together, as if the entire universe conspired to challenge us at every turn. It was a moment etched in my memory, the day everything changed, the day his father chose to leave. At that tender age of 10, Maximus found himself on the brink of adventure. He held back his tears in my presence, as he always does. Yet, I could perceive it in the delicate nuances of his demeanor. I could see it in the silent, yearning look he cast out the window, as if he were hoping for his dad to return. Even though he likely understood deep down that it was not meant to be each day, he would linger in anticipation each day. I witnessed the weight of disappointment gradually take hold of his expression, as he awaited his father's return, which never came. I vowed to myself on the day his father departed. In that moment, I made a solemn vow to myself. I would do everything in my power to ensure that Maximus would never experience solitude. I would be the unwavering presence in his life, ensuring he experienced the warmth and security of a family, even if it was just the two of us together. The commitment I made has served as the bedrock of all my endeavors. Since that moment, the beacon that guides me, even through the bleakest of times. Though the journey has been fraught with challenges, I have endeavored to weave a tapestry of stability for him, offering the love and support he requires, come what may from the world around us. For a long time, I truly thought I was successfully holding everything in place. Maximus was a truly delightful child, so gentle, so serene, always seeking opportunities to lend a hand around the house. There was a certain softness to him, a quality that set him apart even among his peers. Yet, as the years passed, a transformation began to unfold. He began to transform in ways that eluded my understanding, and if I'm being truly candid, I could sense my own evolution as well. This year, Maximus reached the age of 18. A moment that felt significant for both of us in many ways. He has outgrown his childhood. Yet there are moments when my thoughts drift back. He's still navigating the intricate journey of discovering what it truly means to embody manhood. The shift isn't always evident, and I can sense his struggle with it from a young age. He carried an air of quietness about him, a gentle reserve that set him apart. He never felt the urge to be in the company of other children all the time. He never pursued the boisterous, tumultuous exchanges that many of his contemporaries reveled in. He tends to stay in, finding solace in the serene embrace of his home. He lacks the kind of close friendships that one might typically envision for a young man. I've made attempts to engage him in conversation about it. Sought to. It's a mystery, really, whether there's something amiss within him, whether he's grappling with feelings of loneliness or a sense of being adrift. Yet, whenever I dare to broach the subject, he simply shrugs it off, brushing aside my worries with a nonchalant, "I'm fine." Yet, I understand him more deeply than he realizes. I can sense that he's not okay. A mother possesses an innate understanding of these truths, even when her child attempts to sway her thoughts. About a month ago, Maximus approached me with a revelation that took me completely by surprise. Something I was utterly unprepared to hear. As the evening wore on, it was just the two of us in the living room. He suddenly revealed himself in a way I had never witnessed before. He shared with me that he had been borrowing my belongings, specifically my underwear. In the beginning, I found myself utterly bewildered. I found myself lost in his words, unable to grasp their true meaning as my thoughts wandered aimlessly. Understanding of it. And when it struck me, when I finally grasped the profound significance of what he was conveying, it was as if the very ground I stood upon had vanished into thin air. My heart raced, and my breath was caught in my chest. I felt an overwhelming urge to raise my voice, to insist on understanding the whirlwind of thoughts that had taken residence in his mind. What led him to believe that such actions were acceptable? Yet, I chose not to. Instead, I found myself rooted to the spot, a silent observer, captivated by his every move. In that fleeting moment, he appeared diminutive, cloaked in shame, and enveloped by a profound sense of embarrassment. His gaze fell to the ground, deliberately steering clear of my own. His stance curled in a manner that stirred a deep sense of compassion within me. The lad who had once brimmed with eagerness to lend a hand, overflowing with gentle kindness, now sat there, weighed down by a mystery I couldn't quite grasp. In that fleeting moment, a revelation dawned upon me. Deeply significant, this transcended merely his actions. It transcended the mere actions, the surprise or the fury that may have stirred within me. It was about a profound essence, an unspoken truth that had always eluded his grasp, something he was experiencing, a feeling, one that remained unspoken, locked away in the depths of his heart. This tale unfolds around his struggle, his confusion, his loneliness, and his fear. In that moment, I found myself sitting beside him, grappling not only with the stark realities of the situation but also with the deep, unspoken emotions he bore, feelings that remained locked away, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. He was neither a pervert nor a monster. He was my son, and he faced his battles, wrestling with emotions that eluded his grasp, battling impulses that slipped through his fingers. In that moment, I found myself at a crossroads, unable to deepen his sorrow any further. A decision had to be made. I struck a bargain with him. I conveyed to him that he was free to pursue his needs, yet there would be guidelines to follow. He had the ability to find relief, yet it was necessary for him to do so in my presence. In that manner, I could ensure his safety, that he wasn't venturing beyond any more boundaries. In return, I declared that I would invite whomever I pleased into the house, free from his scrutiny or judgment. Though it wasn't flawless, it was the only answer that came to mind in that fleeting moment. From that moment on, everything changed. Maximus appears to be at ease now, his tension fading away. He remains quiet, yet he no longer shies away from my presence as he once did. And what about me? The journey has begun. Understand that this setup is not solely for his benefit. It's for me as well. It grants me the liberation I've long desired. The liberation to embrace my life without the need to tread lightly around him. In the stillness of the night, I find myself awake, pondering the choices I've made. The correct decision. One can't help but ponder the thoughts that might swirl in the minds of others if they were to uncover the truth. Would they label me as a poor mother, a disappointment? Perhaps they would. Yet they remain unaware of Maximus. They remain unaware of the profound anguish that comes from witnessing your child in pain. Feeling utterly powerless to mend their wounds, they do not understand the sensation of teetering on the edge, striving to maintain your composure while the world around you threatens to unravel. The path ahead remains a mystery, shrouded in uncertainty. I'm uncertain whether the setup will endure over time, or if it's merely a ticking time bomb poised to explode. Yet, for the moment, this is the tale we live. This is the path we've embraced, and though it may be tangled and intricate, I am pouring my heart into it for him, for both of us. If you're still here, remember to give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts below. Share your thoughts and join us for more tales like this. Believe me, there's a vast world waiting to be revealed. What unfolded was not a part of my design. It was a spontaneous decision, one that came without much contemplation. It unfolded in an instant. In one fleeting moment, I found myself seated, pondering how to approach Maximus regarding his revelation. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the words flowed from my lips as if they were guided by an unseen force. I told you. You can continue. But there are a few things I require in exchange. He gazed at me as if I had just expressed in a different tongue. His face drained of color and his hands tightened into fists upon the kitchen table. For a fleeting moment, I believed he was preparing to rise and make an exit. Perhaps I wished for him to. Perhaps I wished for him to refuse, to declare my sanity in question and exit the room in a flurry. Yet, he chose not to. He just sat there, gazing at me, his mouth moving as if he were caught in a moment of confusion, unsure of what to say, to express. What do you mean? He finally asked, his voice trembling, soft, as if he were uncertain about whether he truly wished to hear the response. With a deep breath, I paused for a moment. Well, you can certainly continue, but it must be in my presence. In exchange, I am free to embrace my life as I choose. I have the ability to welcome others into the space without you needing to utter a word about it. There are no judgments, no inquiries. We each find what we seek. Understood. A profound hush enveloped the moment that followed. Maximus remained silent, his lips sealed tight. He gazed at me, his brow whereupon in thought, his lips drawn tight into a narrow line. It was clear he was wrestling with my words, seeking to unravel their meaning and find clarity in the chaos of thought. I found myself engaged in the very same activity. The words lingered in the air, suspended between us, and there was no way to reclaim them. It wasn't that I was entirely convinced I wished to. At last, he gave a slight nod. Just a whisper of movement, barely perceptible to the eye. Okay, he murmured. His voice so gentle that it nearly slipped past my ears. If that is your desire. And that was the end of the tale. That was the agreement. The first time it happened, a wave of nausea washed over me, and I feared I might lose my lunch. I perched on the edge of my bed, my heart racing in my chest. My palms slick with sweat. I convinced myself this was what he required. That it was preferable to the other option, that my actions were for his benefit. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was far more complex than it appeared. It is never so. Maximus stepped into the room, his gaze fixed firmly on the ground. Neither of us uttered a word, a silence enveloping the moment. Our gazes never truly met. Not in any meaningful way, I simply remained in my seat, feigning indifference as if the world around me was just another ordinary day unfolding. And when it came to an end, he departed. Departed in silence. For what felt like an eternity, I remained still. Caught in the moment that had just unfolded, I found myself seated, gazing at the wall, attempting to reassure myself that all was well, that this moment was indeed acceptable. It's curious, the ways in which we adapt to the world around us. In the beginning, each moment struck like a blow to the stomach. Yet, as the days passed, it began to flow more smoothly. Or perhaps I simply honed my craft of feigning indifference. I whispered to myself that it caused no harm, that it was merely a variation of the norm. I convinced myself that I was being sensible, that I was turning a challenging circumstance into something manageable. For a time, I held that belief close to my heart. Maximus, in contrast, unfolded a tale all his own. He put on a brave face, but the truth was written all over his eyes: shame, the guilt. A silent story begging to be told. He never voiced it, yet I sensed the deep-seated loathing he held for himself, for the very need that drew him to me. Each time I caught that expression on his face, it shattered my heart just a bit further. But what was I meant to do? He was my son, my one and only. Turning my back on him was simply not an option. I couldn't stand idly by as he struggled in the depths of his own emotions. So I embraced my usual resolve, donned a courageous facade, and forged ahead. For him, for me, for us. I'm uncertain if my choices are leading me down the correct path. On many days, I find myself questioning what the right path truly is. Yet, here we find ourselves. The journey we've crafted, and for the moment, it suffices. It must be. In the beginning, it felt quite familiar. Maximus adhered to the pattern, if one could even refer to it as such. In the gentle embrace of morning, and occasionally once more as the day draws to a close. It unfolded in unexpected ways, yet it remained within reach. I reassured myself that this was merely a fleeting moment, that he would eventually lose interest, that it would fade away once the excitement diminished. Yet, I found myself mistaken. Rather than coming to a halt, it surged forward with even greater intensity. Gradually, the morning unfurled into an afternoon, and then, like a gentle whisper, it transformed into night. Then, 2 mornings in a row. I began to observe how swiftly the hours and the day started to dance around this arrangement. There were fewer stretches of normalcy, fewer moments when the air in the house didn't feel laden with the weight of our unspoken agreement. I attempted to cast it aside, to bury it deep within the recesses of my thoughts, yet it remained ever present, like a haunting shadow that refused to fade away. As I stood there, hands deep in the fabric of freshly laundered clothes, a sense of unease washed over me. For the very first time, Maximus entered the room, silence enveloping him, his face a mask of tension, his posture rigid and unyielding. Before he uttered a single word, I could sense his desires as if they were written in the air around us. I placed the clothes aside and settled on the edge of the couch, anticipation building as I waited for him to finish. Yet, this time, there was an unmistakable shift. He lingered, not merely departing when the final curtain fell. He paused, gazing at me as if he were on the brink of sharing something profound. Yet the words eluded him. The tension coiled within me, the gravity of the moment bearing down like an unyielding stone. "Are you all right?" I inquired, my tone gentler than I had meant it to be. He nodded, yet the truth lingered in his gaze. This had transcended the notion of relief. It was something beyond the ordinary. On that fateful night, slumber eluded me. As I lay there, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, the events of the day danced through my thoughts, each moment unfolding like a vivid scene in a tale I couldn't help but revisit. I reassured myself not to dwell on it, convincing myself that I was merely conjuring illusions. Yet deep within, I understood the truth. This had evolved beyond mere coping for him. It was becoming a necessity for him, something he found himself leaning on more and more. The most chilling aspect was the uncertainty of how to bring it to a halt. In the days that followed, Maximus's demeanor transformed even further. He ceased his attempts to conceal it, no longer biding his time for the perfect moments. It felt as though he had cast aside all notions of boundaries, as if the agreement we had forged was merely a ticket to indulge in his whims at any time he pleased. Perhaps it truly was, hadn't I granted him the liberty to embark on this journey on that fateful day. When I first playfully nudged him, it happened quite by chance. As I stood in the kitchen, crafting a meal, he entered the room. His gaze was a palpable presence, tracking my every movement as I navigated the space, each step under his watchful eye. In a moment of uncertainty, I find myself pondering the reasons behind my actions. Perhaps I sought to ease the strain, or perhaps I was probing him, curious about the limits of his resolve. In a moment of spontaneity, I let my jacket slip from my shoulders, allowing it to cascade onto the counter. His breath caught in his throat, and I pivoted to meet his gaze, a subtle smile playing at the edges of my lips. Is there something amiss? I inquired, feigning ignorance of the way his cheeks turned a rosy hue. He remained silent. He simply turned and exited the room. Yet, I sensed the heaviness of his stare remaining long after he had departed. From that moment on, it transformed into a game. I would gather my hair, allowing my shirt to ride up just a tad, a touch too high, and leave my jeans unbuttoned for a moment longer than necessary. Nothing too obvious, nothing laid bare, just the right amount to cause him to fidget, to pause momentarily before he chose to look away. It bestowed upon me an unusual feeling of mastery, a strength I hadn't experienced in ages, and I despised how deeply I enjoyed it. Yet, with each day that unfolded, the boundary between us faded just a bit further. He began to seek me out with increasing frequency, crafting reasons to linger close, even when there was no necessity for it, and I whispered to myself that it was harmless, that it held no significance. Yet, the reality was, I found myself uncertain about its meaning now. Doubt clouded my mind, leaving me uncertain of everything that once felt clear. In the stillness of a late evening, a pivotal moment unfolded. Bringing everything to a climax, Maximus sat across from me in the living room, his gaze unwavering as I immersed myself in the pages of a book. The atmosphere was laden with a palpable tension, the sort that sent shivers down your spine and quickened the beat of your heart. As I raised my eyes to him, our gazes intertwined, a silent connection forming between us. And for the first time, I held my gaze steady. He did not either. The silence lingered between us, thick and oppressive, until I mustered the courage to clear my throat and rise to my feet. As I prepared to drift into the realm of dreams, I softly declared my intention, my voice barely rising above a whisper. He nodded, yet I sensed his gaze lingering on me as I made my way down the path. It's a mystery how we arrived at this moment. I'm unsure how it has come to this point. Yet, here we find ourselves, ensnared in a cycle that eludes my understanding of how to escape. As I navigate through this labyrinth of thoughts, a whisper lingers in the back of my mind, suggesting that the reins I once held so tightly may have slipped through my fingers, leaving me adrift in uncertainty. It was not until Enrique Franklin stepped into our world that the threads of our existence began to come undone. Our paths crossed thanks to a mutual friend. One of those laid-back introductions that initially seem inconsequential. Yet, Enrique was not the sort of man who slipped easily from memory. He possessed a captivating charm that seemed entirely natural, as if bringing a smile to your face required no effort on his part. His laugh resonated throughout the room, enveloping everyone in a warmth that was both inviting and disarming. In his presence, I felt a sense of lightness, as if, for the first time in years, I could finally lower my defenses. Enrique began to visit more frequently. Initially, it was merely for dinner or a drink on the back porch, but before long, he found himself staying longer, lingering in the living room after Maximus had slipped away to his room. And then, on a fateful night, he chose to stay, not leaving at all. I chose not to conceal it from Maximus. But that twist was never in the script we agreed upon. Was it? Yet, I couldn't shake off the expression that crossed his face the following morning when he caught sight of Enrique at the kitchen table, casually sipping coffee as if he had always belonged there. There was a quiet intensity in the air, a whisper of unease that I could sense in my son. His jaw was set tight, and I noticed how his fingers gripped his plate with a little more force than usual. In the beginning, Maximus remained silent. He lingered at the periphery, a silent observer shrouded in a veil of melancholy. As the weeks unfolded and Enrique's presence in our home grew more regular, his silence transformed into something more piercing. Once upon a time, there was a figure known as he began to lash out at me over minor issues, overlooked tasks, mismatched socks, and trivial irritations that somehow grew into monumental grievances. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself that it was merely his method of adapting. Yet, the reality was, I was capable. The resentment bruised between us, dense and weighty as if a storm is on the horizon. poised to unleash its fury. One evening, as Enrique and I lounged on the couch, sharing laughter over something amusing, Maximus strolled in the chamber. He remained silent at first, simply observing us with an expression I couldn't fully decipher. Location. As I gazed upward and locked eyes with him, it became clear: the pain, the fury, the bewilderment that it has been simmering just below the surface for weeks. Just as I was about to utter a word, he began to speak. His voice carried a soft tremor, resonating with an intimate depth. "Do you truly care?" No longer, he spoke, his words slicing through the silence with precision. Enrique's gaze met mine, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. Yet my focus remained unwavering on Maximus. "What are you saying? What is it about?" I inquired, my voice unwavering despite the rapid beating of my heart. He advanced a step nearer, his hands tightly balled at his sides. "You seem indifferent to my feelings, to our connection, and to the impact this journey has had on me." The room fell into a hush, a stillness so profound that even Enrique held his breath, frozen in place. I rose gradually, my heart constricted, as I sought some semblance of understanding in Maximus's expression. "Maximus, that's not true," I whispered gently. "Indeed, you hold a special place in my heart, for me," he retorted, his voice elevating with intensity. "What does any of this mean for me? You allowed this fellow to stroll into our lives as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. As you find yourself in that moment, you linger and laugh with him as if I'm just a shadow fading into the background." The air escaped my lungs, his words striking me with an intensity I hadn't anticipated. "Maximus," I called, extending my hand toward him. Yet he recoiled just before my fingers could make contact. "I had no idea you held these feelings," I remarked. "Naturally, you didn't," he remarked with a sharp edge to his voice. "Are you so wrapped up in your own pursuits that you've lost sight of me? Do I even exist in your world, or am I merely a convenience for you?" The hush that enveloped the room was overwhelming. Enrique shifted uncomfortably on the couch, his words a soft murmur about needing space, before he quietly slipped out the door. I hardly took note. Before me stood my son, a figure trembling with emotions I had overlooked for far too long. That night, after Maximus had stormed off to his room, I found myself alone in the living room, gazing at the empty coffee cup that Enrique had left behind. His words echoed in my mind, a relentless loop, each one slicing a bit deeper than the one before. He was correct. My thoughts had not truly wandered in his direction. In my relentless pursuit to make this situation work, I became so engrossed in convincing myself that everything was perfectly fine, that I failed to pause and consider the impact it was having on him. For the first time in ages, I felt the profound impact of my decisions. The pact I had forged with Maximus, the thresholds we had crossed, the lines we had smudged. The tale had grown beyond our own narrative. It was a tale of transformation, reflecting on the scars we were etching into the world around us. That night, sleep eluded me. There I sat, gazing at the door, lost in thought about whether there remained a chance to mend this, or if the moment had already slipped away. The morning following our disagreement, an eerie silence enveloped the house. Maximus lingered in his chamber, the door firmly shut, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced anticipation. As I settled into the kitchen table, my gaze fell upon the coffee before me, the steam rising in delicate tendrils, weaving a mist that blurred the edges of my thoughts. The time had come. I could no longer turn a blind eye to it. Action was necessary. Whatever this was, whatever transformation our relationship had undergone, it simply couldn't continue in this manner, neither for him nor for me. As the sun began to dip in the sky, I approached his door and gave it a gentle knock. Silence lingered in the air, a heavy pause that stretched on. I remained there, my forehead resting against the cool wooden frame, anticipation coursing through me. "Maximus, I implore you, I must speak with you," I uttered gently. At long last, the door groaned open, revealing him, his expression shrouded in mystery and his eyes edged with weariness. "Forgive me," I whispered, my voice quaking with emotion, "for all that has transpired, for the pain that has gone unnoticed, for allowing circumstances to reach this point. I made a mistake." Though his expression remained unchanged at first, he graciously stepped aside to allow me entry. I perched on the edge of his bed, while he reclined against the wall, his arms folded tightly across his chest. "We find ourselves in need of assistance," I confessed. "We both. I can no longer maintain the facade of certainty, and I cannot allow us to continue on this journey any longer. I've stumbled along the way, but I'm eager to mend what I've broken if you'll allow me the chance." Maximus remained silent at first, merely nodding, his eyes cast downwards, lost in thought. A few days later, we found ourselves in a modest office, facing Rafael Cabrera, a family therapist I had discovered through my online search. Raphael was a gentle soul, his presence soothing and unwavering, creating an atmosphere of safety. Even in moments of silence. In the beginning, neither of us did, we lingered in quietude. The burden of our tale too profound to articulate. Yet, Raphael possessed a unique talent for shattering that silence, posing inquiries that felt less like intrusions and more like warm invitations. Gradually, Maximus started to share his thoughts. He shared the deep loneliness that had enveloped him since the divorce, the swirling confusion he grappled with regarding our arrangement, and the simmering resentment that had taken root within him. I sat there, tears flowing down my cheeks, as his words gave voice to emotions I had buried deep within for far too long. As the days turned into weeks, therapy wove itself into the fabric of our daily lives. It was a challenging journey. There were days when we departed the office feeling more exhausted than when we first stepped in. Days that made me ponder whether we were truly moving forward. Yet, piece by piece, the barriers that separated us started to crumble. Raphael guided us in establishing true boundaries. Authentic boundaries this time. I conveyed to Maximus that our agreement had reached its conclusion, that it had been an error, and that it was time for us to begin anew. In the beginning, he found it challenging to find his footing. There were instances when I noticed him slipping back into familiar patterns, his frustration bubbling up, manifesting as anger or tears. Yet, under Raphael's wise direction, we discovered more nourishing paths to navigate our challenges. Maximus embarked on a journey of self-discovery through journaling, an endeavor I never imagined he would embrace. He also ventured into a local martial arts class, where he uncovered a powerful outlet for his emotions. Gradually, I witnessed his transformation. He rose a bit higher, his voice carrying a newfound assurance, and ventured out more often, weaving connections that were independent of me. The most challenging aspect for me was confronting my own reflection, truly confronting who I am. Therapy compelled me to face the choices I had made, the ways I had allowed my own fears and insecurities to shape my relationship with Maximus. I had devoted countless hours to grasping at him, attempting to bridge the emptiness created by the divorce, all the while blind to the fact that it was stifling us both. Releasing that grip, discovering the strength to believe in his own footing, was among the most challenging journeys I've ever embarked upon. On a serene evening, several months after our inaugural therapy session, Maximus and I found ourselves on the porch, gazing as the sun gracefully descended beyond the horizon. He glanced my way and said, "Thanks, Mom, for everything." It may not have seemed like much, yet it held a significance all its own. I extended my hand and gently squeezed his, a simple gesture that conveyed so much without uttering a single word. We're on a journey of discovery. Healing is a winding journey. It's a tangled web of chaos, brimming with challenges and unexpected twists. Yet, after an extended period of uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignites within me. Maximus is navigating his path, and so am I. Though we may never completely wipe away the errors of our past, we are discovering how to journey onward side by side. Life unfolds without a guidebook, and even if one existed, I likely would have discarded mine long ago. Once upon a time, Maximus and I have journeyed through challenges beyond my wildest dreams, yet here we stand, unwavering, continually striving, and ever eager to learn. The house carries a new essence, as if it has shed its weight and embraced a scent of lightness. Perhaps a certain tranquility envelops us when we realize we are on the path to something greater. Maximus has discovered his stride. He dedicates more moments to his friends, immerses himself in his own passions, and when our paths do intertwine, it feels as though we are encountering each other as unique individuals, rather than as two individuals ensnared in a tangled web, the intricacies of which eluded our comprehension. We still possess those moments, indeed. Healing may not be flawless, yet it signifies a journey forward. For me, it's been an odyssey of confronting my own essence. I have had to discover the art of forgiving myself, to release the burdens of guilt that have lingered for far too long. I've come to realize that I can't always mend what's broken, and at times, the most valuable thing you can offer sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone dear to you is to take a step back and allow them the space to discover their own path. It has not been a simple journey. Yet, I take great pride in the journey we've embarked on, not merely as a mother and son, but as two individuals discovering the essence of respect and trust anew. If there's a single lesson I've gleaned from all in this tale, we explore the significance of boundaries, authentic ones. They are not merely guidelines, they are expressions of deep affection. Embrace the affection for those who surround you and nurture the love within yourself. They are the guardians of what is cherished, creating space for blossoming, for insight, for bonds to flourish. I've come to understand that taking responsibility holds equal weight to granting forgiveness, and that at times the most challenging, The first step is to acknowledge your mistakes. Yet, it is also the most liberating. To all who lend an ear, I wish to share this. Errors do not shape your identity. Your essence is shaped by your actions following a fall, by the courage you muster to confront those you've wronged, and by the steps you take to forge ahead. Growth is a journey, not a destination of perfection. It's a journey of embracing transformation even in the face of fear, even amidst the pain, continuing to unravel the mysteries of life, and I believe that journey will never truly end. Such is the journey we all traverse for the first time in ages. It feels as though we've found our footing on firm ground. We are crafting a brighter future, one that embodies wellness. And I have faith that our journey together will continue to progress regardless. I'm eager to know your thoughts. Imagine, if you will, what actions you might take if your universe crumbled away in the same way as mine did. What steps will you take next on your journey? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this tale resonated with you, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating narratives. Until we meet again in the next tale.